Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello friends, welcome to segment 2. I think you are now comfortable with assessment, evaluation, screening, testing and measurement. Now after going through all of this, you will wonder why is screening and who is the one who is going to do the screening. I have been repeatedly saying that teachers are the right person to screen, particularly when it comes to specific learning disabilities. But yes, why do we screen? Let us have a look at that. Number 1, as you could read here, the rule out any other alternative explanations for academic problems. As we said when we saw that matrix, the teacher's screening says yes, the child seems to be having a problem. The assessment shows child does not have a problem. That means the teacher does find something that is not fitting in the rest of the classroom like the other children are learning for this child. So, maybe SLD, whereas the assessment could have found something else, maybe it is a family problem, maybe the child is not getting enough attention at home. I can give you an example. I had this child coming to me suspecting SLD for testing from a very, very poor family, and one of the complaints in the teacher's listing for referral included she all the time she sleeps in the class, she is not listening, she is not doing any work, and so maybe she is having SLD. Teacher is right, in screening she has picked up something that is not fitting into the classroom situation, therefore she suspected. But when we spoke to the family, we got more details, me and my colleagues, when I say the team. So, we found that this mother works as a housemaid and the father is a rickshaw puller, and this girl about 7 years old has a 2-year-old brother. So, at home she does 7-year-old, cleans up the utensils and feeds the brother. The mother has cooked and kept, gives food to the brother, puts him to, looks after him basically. So, the only place where she tends to rest, sit down and rest is the classroom. So, when she comes to the classroom, she sleeps off. So, the father goes off for his job early in the morning, but her mother also, the housemaids, as you know, report to your homes in the morning and then they work till 12 o'clock or so, 12 to 3 they have a break, again afternoon they go and work, isn't it? Most of the houses that is what is happening. So, when the mother is away, this little girl has to babysit her little brother and feed him and do the leftover dishes at home. So, where does she get to sit? Comes to the school and she sleeps off the moment she sits down. So, after this was found out, and teacher is right in suspecting, so screening is correct, but in assessment it is not SLD. Do you see this? So, here the assessment helps in ruling out any other alternative explanation for the child's not able to learn. That is one of the reasons screening is very important. And this also is a teacher's concern now, that not SLD, but well, there is another reason. So, teacher works with the family and tries to see how the child could be made alert and awake in the classroom, becomes teacher's role also, but it rules out SLD for this child. Yeah, poor education, poor motivation, or the child is not having according to the way we study, the study skills that he has. You will do modules on study skills perhaps later, what are all the various study skills, some emotional problems. So, anything could have been there, not necessarily SLD. So, this helps in ruling out alternative explanations, and then look into the patterns of the child's cognitive ability. It also tells, when the teacher does the screening, the teacher will get to see whether the child is understanding better when it is a verbal input as against an auditory, as against a visual input, which of the two that the child is receiving better. Verbal input the child usually receives through the ears and the visual input through the eyes, isn't it, when you look at the learning process. So, some children are very good in a certain channel, the teacher will get to know when she does the basic screening. In a while we will see a screening schedule that has all of these items that will give you a hint on what kind of a learner the student is. And once the information reaches the brain, there is a processing, the cognitive ability as you have seen here, the attention component in the child. After attending to the given content, does he make sense out of it, to connect it to the earlier learning, to make a new meaning to it, and then what of it takes to his storage, the memory, and when it comes to the contextual output, how does he use it. All of these, if we have to know, screening becomes an essential process, as you call it, the information processing. We will see it in a while, how the whole process happens. So, this screening helps you to understand the child's style of learning in a big way. What is the style he adopts for his learning? Each one of you have a different style, each one of us have a different style. The way you learn, I may not be learning. 40 children taught in a class, each child has a way of absorbing and storing and making use of the information received. It is not the same in all of us. So, the screening helps the teacher understand what is this particular child's style of learning. So, that is a very big help for classroom teaching. And lastly, you have to consider the child's own socio-cultural linguistic differences in the testing context. So, a child studying in a school in the North India, now father got transferred to South and he is coming to a school in the South, completely he is adjusting not just the lessons of language, mathematics, science and social studies and things, but even the socio-cultural adjustments, it is a challenge for the child to get used, and that can show a little dip in the school performance before he picks up. Though the medium of instruction remain the same, there are other linked factors that can affect the academic performance of a child. A screening really helps you. Suppose in the screening, the learning disability related things do not get ticked, but still the child is not doing so very well in class, it automatically makes you the teacher. You are a smart teacher, you have been teaching, you know children for so many years, batches of 40s you have been sending out from your class to the promoted next class. So, you know what else to look for when this is not positive. So, is it a family problem, is it a culture linked problem, is it a language linked problem? Screening gives you a little direction. So, it helps you narrow down on the bigger issue of the problem. Again I am going to the medical example of when we go to the doctor saying stomach pain, the doctor tries to find out the reason for the stomach pain. Is it due to gas, is it due to some other food that is not suiting you? He will ask you what did you eat, he taps to see whether it is gas. So, he narrows down on one particular cause. For you it was a big stomach pain only, but that cause for a stomach pain, it is one little diagnosis and then the prescription comes in and you are starting to feel better. Similarly, the child is not doing so well, is like a bigger picture of stomach pain. What is causing him to not do so very well is like the doctor's specific diagnosis. So, he gives a prescription, you will know the prescription in the classroom, you will know now how do I work with him so that he will learn better, right. So, screening is very essential. Now, when you screen, what are the various components in screening? When you look at it, number one, these are the two essential things. One is, we touched upon it earlier, information processing, the other one is academic achievement. Generally, a child who alarms you in your classroom is one who tends to have a discrepancy in his expected performance and his actual performance. So, what do we mean by that? We need to have in each of the subjects scoring a certain marks that calls him as fitting in the class and doing well in class, doing average in class and manages to pass in class. Some inference you are able to derive from the measurements that you make about the child. So, this academic achievement, when it is below the expected performance, then you start to have your worries about the child, right. Why is he not doing so well? As a teacher, you are very concerned about him. So, the academic achievement is the key factor for you to worry about a child if it is not so happy situation, can I say it that way? Yeah. So, current levels of academic functioning in relevant areas, reading and reading comprehension, both are equally important basically. the reading and reading comprehension, if it is there, it helps you with your science and social studies and other things also. It is one area. Yeah. Oral and written language issues, and mathematics. Mathematics again has the computation as well as the application of mathematics, mathematical computation, mathematical reasoning. So, these are the three areas that generally are the core areas to help us look at the child's problem. So, therefore, in learning, therefore, academic achievement is one, and the second is the information processing, as you see on the screen. Specific areas of information processing, such as is he an auditory learner, is he a visual learner, how does he receive the information, how does he process the information, how does he store the information, how does he bring it out contextually. Now, let us say what do you mean by information processing? We receive information through our 5 senses, let us say vision, hearing, smell, what more, tell me? Yes, taste, and then tactile and kinesthetic area. So, vision, hearing, smell, taste, tactile, kinesthetic. So, when the information is received by any of these, what do you do first? You tend to attend, right? So, in classroom situation predominantly it is vision and hearing and your tactile kinesthetic to a great extent. Even if these organs are in order, if the child is not attending, information is not going further. Just like in the computer, let us call this as a input channel. Yeah. And here this is your, just like the computer, here we have the processing channels. So, in the processing channel, the first one is attention. Children who tend to not attend, this the teacher will be visibly able to make out whether the child is attending or not. Even if the hearing is intact, vision is intact, all other senses are intact, the information is going in, but the child is not attending, there is a block. So, there is further movement is not happening. Okay. Then comes, suppose let us say there is no issues with attention, then he has the next set of processing, that is perception. So, when you say you are perceiving, what do? You receive the new input, relate it to the already stored input relevant to that, try to see whether it is the same or different. If it is different, how is it different from the earlier learnt information, and how is it going to impact you, how is it going to be important to you, and should I store it or not store it, all of those you decide. So, that bit of understanding, it is called understanding. Now, you say yes, I understand. When you say I understand, you have related it to the old information that is stored, the new input that is coming in. Even now, as I am talking, many other things you think, oh, this I had already known, oh, this she is telling you, yes, your brain is doing that. So, that is you are perceiving the information, right. So, then the brain decides, if the brain thinks it is important, decides to send it to the memory. So, this whole thing is your processing unit, and specific learning disability in early years had a name called perceptual handicap, because majority of nowadays handicap term is no more used anywhere, but I am talking of the history. It was called perceptual handicap because major problem in such children tend to be in the perception region, that is their inability to differentiate the old information from the new information, the inability to, even the spellings that they tend to have, they perceive the letters differently, the shape of the letter, the size of the letter, the way they hear, they will perceive the word to write. So, when you say cat, cat starts with a k sound, so they may tend to write as K-A-T, yeah, stuff like that, or class, C-L-A-S, single S or double S, it sounds class. So, he will simply write C-L-A-S or K-L-A-S. So, the perception has a whole lot of things, and that I think I am sure you have other segments that will give you those details of how to go about and remediate that. I am simply saying that this is how it goes. This whole lot, attention, perception, memory, is your processing unit, and then comes your output. That output includes language, verbal or non-verbal. So, gestures and writing go under non-verbal, and under verbal is your speech. So, take a child who has a better, you call a child a better auditory learner. So, in your class you use the visual, the chalkboard or the smart class facility, whatever, some visuals and also the auditory. And if there is a child who is a better visual learner, not so good an auditory learner, he may be able to get the benefit of your visual input and then come up with the responses. If there is a child who is an auditory learner, predominantly he will focus on what you are saying, not so much on the visuals. A good teacher will make sure we are a mixed group, even children without any SLD have preferred channels, remember this, all of us have preferred channels. So, a good teacher will not take chances, she will make sure that she uses both audio visual and the third one tactile kinesthetic channel equally, or at least in a balanced manner, to make sure that every child benefits. That is why today our CBSE syllabus has the activity based learning given so much of importance, so every child benefits from it. So, suppose there is an auditory learner, usually how does it go on the chart? So, his learning goes from here, let us say, he hears the information, he attends to it, he perceives, he understands what it is, and then he takes it to his memory, and from that content you are asking a question contextually, you will find him very good in giving you also the verbal response. The channel moves very smoothly, and usually you will, if he is an SLD child, many a time, not always, many a time they may not be so good with their written responses, they may be excellent with their verbal responses. And when it comes to non-verbal, as we see here, writing and gestures tend to be non-verbal, and writing tends to have its own linked issues, like a word that is heard when you are dictating in class, a word that is heard has to go to the brain on this route that we are showing here. So, you hear the whole word, let us say a word, what can I take? Let us take the word attend, you are given the word attend and the child has to put it in the paper. So, the ears have received the word, he has perceived, while perceiving now he has to get the word, the whole word, take it with him, come down to the paper when he has to write, and he has to decode the word to call it as ATTEND. So, the attend gets decoded into this little spellings that is appropriate, then he has to remember the letter shapes of each of that, and he should also think whether it is a capital A or a small a, proper noun, all those taken care, then he has to put it down and the handwriting has to be right for him to put the whole word in its place, right. So, the writing has a more complex issues when compared to the hearing and verbally reproducing, as against receiving the visual symbols, storing the visual symbols, recalling the right visual symbols and reproducing it contextually, keyword again contextually. I dictate attend and the child's writes parent, does not connect, they are not contextual, is not it. So, it has got to be absolutely meeting. So, this is what we were talking about when we talked about the processing. Yeah. So, the information processing, when we talk about the information processing, The specific areas of information processing as you see on the slide: auditory, visual, perception, processing, short and long term memory, sequential memory, the speed with which he processes. Sequential memory, when you talk about, you take the word, when you take it to storage, it gets stored in a jumbled manner. Let us say you have the word stop. So, he takes it to his brain, stop, STOP, whereas he reproduces on the paper as SPOT. So, the letters are all correct, but then the letters are jumbled. You dictate a number 617, he writes 671. You see that? The sequence gets changed. So, therefore, you tend to see that the child, for you the child is committing error, but when you understand the pattern that you see in the error, that will help you come up with the remedial programs also, which you will do in this course as it goes by. So, now you look at the what do you look for when you screen? The teacher has to look for the ability of the child to demonstrate academic achievement. So, when you want to call a child as having specific learning disability, average or above average ability, but demonstrate academic achievement below the class level. So, there you see a discrepancy. The teacher does not give an IQ test, but how does the teacher say that this is how I see him different from a child with intellectual disability? Is the teacher will say he is good at everything else, he is very good with oral responses in class, he is very good with the kind of jokes he comes up with. I had a student, he 4th standard, severe specific learning disability, functioning like class 1 level with his reading writing, working with him. He will tell me everything about the galaxy and the moon, the sun, how the whole Milky Way, everything works. Class 4, fantastic, many things I did not know, he was able to tell me about it, but when it came to his reading and writing, his performance was at class 1 level. So, the teacher makes that out, the teacher will tell you he is good at everything else. When it comes to his class work of reading and writing, you find that he is much below his class. He is not retarded, she will say he does not have mental retardation, she has not given an IQ test, but she will say he is not having intellectual disability, or as it is called now, because this I see him like any other child. That ticks to say that his IQ will be average or above average, his intelligence will be average or above average, that a teacher is likely to make out. Again, teacher only screens, the assessment will confirm. So, this point number 1, what the teacher sees according to this is, he seems to be average or above average, but he is below class level in 1 or more subjects when he performs. This is one indicator that makes her suspect that the child is having a SLD. And the second one, he has problem in learning, not due to sensory impairment or socio-economic cultural factors, very important. He is not blind, he is not deaf, he is not having any vision impairment related, low vision or partial hearing, his family is good. There is the earlier story I told you, the child had a poor socio-economic condition where she, little 7-year-old had to do an adult's job in their house without rest. So, does not have any of those socio-economic cultural factors or shifting of school. All of these ruled out, still the child tends to have this below class level performance, your suspicion strengthens. Yeah. Then behavioral manifestations such as impaired attention, memory, organizational skill, you notice these things you find, some of the behavioral manifestations that are plus in this child. Either he has poor attention, already we saw on that flow chart, attention is the first one that becomes a block for further learning, or he learns and reproduces immediately. I ask him the same thing, after some time he is not able to bring it back. So, the memory linked issues. Functional memory, it stays, teacher is very happy, you go home today I have taught him how to do the spelling, he got 8 out of 10 with the spelling today, oh good, tomorrow I am going to be very successful. And similar words tomorrow you dictate, he may get 2 or 3 out of 10 to your dismay. So, the immediate memory has been good with this kid, but then his delayed recall tends to, or the short term memory tends to have a problem. Then messed table, organizational skills are poor, he keeps things all over, he bumps into things, because sometimes this motor perception also comes in the way of their learning. You see, when they bump into object, when they get hurt, it is not because they have problem in their legs, but the way they perceive the distance and the movement, they misperceive and can get hurt. Spread out things all over, throw things here, dump things there. So, organizational skills you will find poor, and that also interferes with their learning. So, the third point you see in them, and the first point poor performance you see, but also you think there are reason to think that he is like any other child when it comes to his intelligence, and also he does not have any vision, hearing or other issues. All this a teacher, as a teacher you are going to be able to see in the child and almost infer that this could be the problem in this child, but you cannot diagnose, we will get it confirmed by a diagnostic team. Now, learning disability screening tools, there are a number of screening tools. Many tools can be teacher made, they are not like the standardized tests like an IQ test or a personality test. Many of them can be what you call as criterion referenced testing. A criterion reference testing is one where you set a criteria and to see whether the child is up to that criteria by giving tests in an incremental fashion, and then hook him at a place where he is performing. So, this can be prepared by the teachers. Many of the screening tools are usually made by the teachers, and there are some that are available made by the experts in specific learning disabilities to make the teacher's job easy. 40 children in a class, for this one child I have to prepare the test, I have to test him, it is a lot of work for you. So, make it easy for you. There are a number of tests with guidelines that you are able to use it to suspect the specific learning disability that may be there in this child. You do not say it is there in this child, but these lead you to think that the child can have and refer further. So, this indicates potential, but SLD, but cannot provide a diagnosis, right. So, that is why screening does not provide a diagnosis. We keep in mind and we tend to refer the child further. There are a number of, they can be in the form of checklists, they can be in the form of rating scales, they can be curriculum based, where class wise tests from class 1 to class 5, let us say, are already made, and then you keep on testing the child to see in which class level he fails, and then you pitch him at that class level, and then you continue to work with him. It can even happen with children with specific learning disabilities, that in a child say 9-year-old sitting in class 4 and able to do arithmetic at his class level, but his reading could be at class 2 level, his reading writing can be at class 2 level, or English can be at one class level and language can be at another class level. So, the curriculum based assessment tells you, helps you to pitch the child at a particular class level, and for that you have the test itself will have the class level worksheets which you will be able to use. And when you do the testing, you will watch for, as a teacher, the most important thing that you are likely to do is you will focus on consistency and pattern in the error, very very important. The error in these children will have a consistency and a pattern. When you say error, even you and I make error, and in English let us say, it is not our mother tongue, many a time we get, we start wondering what is the spelling for, let us say, accommodation, does it go with double C and double M, double C and single M, single C and double M, yes or no? All of us tend to have, and then we tend to look at dictionary to make sure what is the right spelling. Center to be spent C-E-N-T-R-E or C-E-N-T-E-R, yes, we do have, thanks to MS Word, it underlines when we go wrong to highlight so that we tend to correct it. But then yes, so children making error does not qualify him to be an SLD. We need to look at, the keyword here is consistently he makes the similar errors, and there is a pattern in his error. That pattern tends to tell you, yes, he is processing, the earlier we saw attention, perception, memory. In the processing there is something that leads to this pattern that he is having in his error. we were talking about the child's pattern of errors, right. We were talking about it all is dependent on the input channel, how they receive, the processing, how it processes, and then therefore happens the output. How do you know the output? The dictation that you give to the child and the way he writes it, the examination that you give, the way they give their answers, or oral responses that they tend to give you for the questions you ask. So, stimulus is your question. That question visually going in if it is a question paper, auditorily going in if it is a verbal question, the respective sensory organ receives it, then that is the input, the stimulus that goes through the 3 attention, perception, memory compartments, and then contextual output happens in the form of a verbal answer or a written answer, and that paper in hand or the answer you have heard from the child helps you decide whether he is right or not. Yes, this is what happens in the classroom. Let us say you have given a dictation of these, this is the teacher and this is the student, and let us say, okay. So, teacher has given kite, the kid has written kit, teacher says time, he writes tim, teacher says lean, he writes lean, teacher says fit, he writes fat, teacher says beat, he writes beat, teacher says rod, he writes road. What do you see here in the pattern? He has done this correct, he has done this correct. But in the rest of the words, when you say the word, you do not hear this, right. This is a silent E, it is called silent, oh I wrote this wrong here. Teacher says road, the child writes rod, I made a mistake there, let us say. So, the silent E is not heard and he omits the silent E. So, you see a pattern where that silent E is not involved, the child seems to be right. Wherever there is this silent E that is not ending E or silent E is usually silent, except for words that has a French origin, you generally find that they are quiet many a time. So, what do you see here? You have seen a pattern out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you will say 2. Instead, you will say 2 is totally correct and 1 error, that is 1 pattern of error. So, that silent E is taught to him, let us say how to, why the silent E is the way it is has been given to him. The 1 correction will correct all, it is no more the 4 errors. What is the rule for silent E? Tell me. So, whenever a silent E comes, the earlier vowel gets its original alphabet sound, that is the rule. So, when you say KIT kit, I is a E sound. The moment you put a E to it, I becomes I. CUT cut, the moment you put a E there, the U becomes U, cute. U gets the original alphabet sound. ROD rod here, O becomes O when it becomes road. The moment the silent E comes at the end, the E remains silent, but the earlier vowel gets its original alphabet sound. This is the rule you are going to pass on to your student. Next time you give this dictation, he is likely to not make this error. He will remember when the original alphabet sound I is I, time as you see here, A, fat becomes fate, you see here, A becomes A. So, it goes back to the original alphabet sound. So, teacher is dictated fate, A sounds A, that means at the end there should be a E. The boy makes the connection here because basically they are intelligent children. They are not children who are having any problem with their intelligence. Or teacher has said time, I sound is coming, that means I is there and E comes at the end, the connections are made. So, once this is the reason why we say look for pattern of error. The moment you see the pattern of error, and they are primary class children, give them this story, 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, they are all friends, and E is a little bit mischievous fellow. So, when they have another 20 odd consonant friends, so they all go together, this fellow silently comes and joins at the end. He does not touch the consonant friends, but from the back quietly tickles the other vowel friend of his, because of which they go back to their original sound. Just tell them this and see the fun in class. And the others do not get affected, the consonants do not get affected. And he goes back to his original, from the back he quietly comes and joins in the end, and from behind slowly tickles his friend. The friend gets tickled and he goes back to his original sound. Look at it, and how the children will remember it so beautifully. So, please, this is only an example, you have a lot of it coming in your other modules where the interventions are being taught by my colleagues. So, you will get to know. So, pattern watching is very important for correction of errors. The moment we have watched the pattern, we know where the child is going wrong and how we are going to come out of it. Yeah, we will go back now to the PowerPoint. Okay, that is why consistency and pattern of the error is very, very important when you are screening the child. Do not say 3 out of 10. The 3 out of 10, if it is, look for the pattern, what are all consistently he is doing and what could be the reason, and the moment the intervention goes in, you will find that you do not need an extra support in your class to help this child, but you as a teacher with so many years of experience, you are going to do it yourself. Friends, I told you that I am going to show you a checklist that will assist you for screening. As I told you, teacher made tests are popular, you can make your own, but these are some that help you to decide what to look for in the child when you are screening the children. So, this is developed by and widely used and validated by Madras Dyslexia Association. There is an instruction on top given, and then there are a list of symptoms that you are likely to see in a child with specific learning disabilities, and you just tick on the margin. More the tick marks, the more the chances that the child is going to be diagnosed by as a specific learning having specific learning disability. Whether diagnosed or not diagnosed, an advantage of the tool like this is wherever you have ticked will automatically tell you this is what I want to correct in this child. All these days it was like the general stomach pain. With this you will know what causes the stomach pain, if I can go back to my old analogy, right. So, going through this list, whatever is getting ticked in this automatically tells the teacher this is the thing that I want to correct for the child. For instance, if you see in reading, I am not reading out the whole thing because this is going to be with you, not able to read simple words like cat, mat, bed, 3 letters, you call it CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant words, yeah. And then you have one confuses verb, tense, may mix up see, saw and seeing kind of words. So, then you have reversals, the stick and circle letters, we have a whole lot of stick and circle letters, children tend to have a difficulty. So, reversal happens because in perception, when they are processing, in perception they see it differently, they perceive it differently, and they continue to have the confusion. So, quite a few children tend to have the reversal issues or M for U, the ones given here are B, D, P, Q, W, M is given here, right, N and U, so quite a few of those. So, there is, it helps you also come up with the measurement so that you get the score. Suppose you use this tool, referred or not referred for diagnosis, you continue to work on those items that have fallen positive, and then you come back your evaluation, right, you have already got the score, your evaluation. After that again you put him on this, how many have reduced out of the 15 tells you the progress in the child, and as we saw measurement, so you are quantifying his progress also. So, this is for reading. Now, you have a whole lot on spelling, what are all the kind of issues the child can have related to spelling, and then you have on writing, yeah, what kind of problem the child is likely to have in terms of writing, and general the behavior we said, right, in the last of the bullets said that certain behavioral manifestations we will be able to see in children with SLD. So, here is a list of behavioral manifestations that you are likely to see. Oh, yeah, general problems, and then the general problems include following spoken or written instruction. Okay, this will generally tell you a visual or auditory learner the child is when you look at this. Then the linked behavioral problems. So, all put together it gives you the score and also the recommendation for when to refer, when you can manage in the classroom by yourself by finding out. So, this is one tool. There are a number of tools, there are tools that you can also prepare and work with the child, but this is comprehensive, brief, short, and maybe using it you will find it comfortable for you, and you can develop your own if you wish, but definitely it gives some guideline to the teacher on how to go about when she is confused about why is this child not learning in my class. It gives you a lot of clues. Shall we take a break? Now we will go to the segment 3, and please look at what we have done and how as a teacher it makes sense to you or it makes meaning to you. Then we will see children little older what kind of problems they are likely to face. Take a break.